Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astottara Sadashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astottara Sadashri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giradhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya Ki. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki. Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki. Their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayat. Shrinvata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suritsatam Nashtaprayashu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, entitled Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena. Text 7. Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyotir Nirguno Sauguna Shrayaha Sarvago Navrita Shakshi Niratma Atma Atmana Para Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyoti Nirguno Saguna Shrayaha Sarvagona Vrita Shakshi Niratma Atmatmana Paraha Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyoti Nirguno Saguna Shrayaha Sarvagona Vrita Shakshi Niratmatmatmatmana Paraha Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyotir Nirguno Saguna Shrayaha Sarvagona Vrita Shakshi Niratmatmatmana Paraha Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyotir Nirguno Sauguna Shrayaha Sarvagona Vrita Shakshi Niratmatmatmana Paraha Eka 1. Shuddha, pure. Swayam, self. Jyoti, effulgent. Nirgunaha, without material qualification. Aso, that. Guna ashrayaha, the reservoir of good qualities. Sarvaga, able to go everywhere. Anavritaha, without being covered by matter. Shakshi, witness. Niratma, without another self. Atma Atmana, to the body and mind. Paraha, transcendental. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The individual soul is one, pure, non-material and self-effulgent. He is the reservoir of all good qualities, and He is all-pervading. He is without material covering, and He is the witness of all activities. He is completely distinguished from other living entities, and He is transcendental to all embodied souls. Please repeat. The individual soul is one, pure, non-material, and self-effulgent. He is the reservoir of all good qualities, and He is all-pervading. He is without material covering, and He is the witness of all activities. He is completely distinguished from other living entities, and He is transcendental to all embodied souls. Purport. In the previous verse, two significant words are used, asamsakta Ashamshakta, meaning without attachment, and Buddha, meaning fully cognizant of everything. By full cognizance, it is meant that one should know about his own constitutional position as well as the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, in this verse, Lord Vishnu is describing himself, or the Paramatma. The Paramatma is always distinguished from the embodied soul as well as the material world. Therefore, he has been described as Para. That Para, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Eka, meaning one. The Lord is one, whereas the conditioned souls embodied within the material world exist in many varieties of form. They are demigods, human beings, animals, trees, birds, bees, and so forth. Thus, the living entities are not Eka, but many. As confirmed in the Vedas, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The living entities who are many and who are entangled in this material world are not pure. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure and detached. Due to being covered by the material body, the living entities are not self-effulgent. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is self-effulgent. The living entities being contaminated by the modes of material nature are called Saguna, whereas Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Nirguna, not being under the influence of the material modes. The living entities, being encaged in material qualities, are Gunashrita, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Gunashrayaha. The conditioned soul's vision is covered by material contamination. Therefore, he cannot see the cause of his actions, and he cannot see his past lives. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, not being covered by a material body, is the witness of all activities of the living entity. But both of them, the living entity and the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are Atma, or spirit. They are one in quality, yet they are different in so many ways, especially in regard to the 6 opulences the Supreme Personality of Godhead has in full. Full knowledge means that the Jiva Atma, the living entity, must know both his position and the Supreme Lord's position. That is full knowledge. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The individual soul is one, pure, non-material, and self-effulgent. He is the reservoir of all good qualities, and he is all-pervading. He is without material covering, and he is the witness of all activities. He is completely distinguished from other living entities, and he is transcendental to all embodied souls. Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity of service. As always, I ask everyone assembled to bless me, that I may speak something that is in line with Srila Prabhupada's philosophy, as well as pleasing and useful to the devotees. So, in this verse, or this series of verses, now Lord Vishnu has appeared in the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj, and he is speaking, and he has come, we hear in the previous verses, Indra has come with him. And Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj, now you must forgive Indra, you know. As we read the verses that Lord Vishnu is saying, we see that actually in what he's saying to Prithu Maharaj, there's a kind of progression, you could say, from, he speaks of karma, of jnana, and eventually he will speak of bhakti, of devotion unto him. And also Lord Vishnu is speaking in this way, in a progressive way, to also highlight the trouble that a living entity can get into when they engage in karma kanda activities, just for the sake of, their own sense gratification. How when we are so entangled in the material conditioning and everything becomes a material competition, the kind of trouble that we can get into, even like with the demigods, we can start competing in that way. So this is also a reason of why Lord Vishnu has stopped the sacrificials, the horse sacrifices, to bring us to a higher platform of consciousness. And we see, yes, in the beginning he says, okay, you must forgive Indra. Then he starts speaking spiritual knowledge. And if you read what Lord Vishnu is saying, the knowledge that he's speaking is basically the Bhagavad Gita, this progression of karma, jnana, bhakti, to devotion, right? And in the beginning when he says, he speaks about how the material body is different from us as the spirit soul, the distinction between that. He speaks about what real knowledge is the knowledge of knowing who you are and knowing who the Lord is in that, and acting from that space of knowledge. He speaks about the modes, how whatever the living entity does, it's because we are covered by the modes. And this is, Lord Vishnu is saying, this is why Indra has done what he has done. He is so covered that he acts in this way, And the point Lord Vishnu is saying ultimately is that you must rise above this nature, because you are the spirit soul. Qualitatively the same as the Lord, but quantitatively different. And we see this in our own lives, how in the material world we get into trouble because of the illusion of duality, meaning that we see things in such black and white terms. You're my friend, you're not my friend. Black, white, friend, enemy, poor, rich. We see life through this lens of duality, male, female, senior, junior, all of this, right? So here, when Lord Vishnu is now describing himself as the Paramatma, the one quality, he says, Eka, he is one. And even in our own lives, this concept of oneness comes up, in transcendence. Eka, the Lord is one, But we sometimes run the risk of misunderstanding this in some way. Because when we come to spirituality, why do we come? Because we're so tired of the division we see in the material world, that the unity of spiritual life attracts us. That, come as you are, Krishna will accept you that way. Come with all your faults. There's no difference, in front of the Lord we are all equal. We are attracted by this in some way. But yes, there's also division in spiritual life in many different ways. The Varanas, the ashrams are there. But even between the Lord and us, there's difference. That's why, the Mayavadis, they say all is one. But we know that's not the case. There's a vast difference between us and Krishna. Even just a silly example, we have the form of Krishna here, and we offer him, how many? 6, 7 offerings a day. 7 offerings a day, all cooked in ghee. Can you eat like that? No. Only Krishna can do that, That's a difference between us and Krishna. Yes. But as Prabhupada says in the purport, that what is full knowledge? Full knowledge is understanding you in relation to the Lord. That's separate. That division is there in some sense, you could say, right? And we understand this through surrender and through service, as Lord Vishnu says in later chapters, that the point of everything is devotional service, right? So now in this section of verses, Lord Vishnu is saying who we should be focusing on. Okay, if you want me to rise above the modes of material nature, if you're saying I'm not my body, what should my focus be? So Krishna says, okay, you start, I'm the Paramatma in the heart. You start focusing there. That, okay, yes, you are a soul, and you're eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, but don't get stuck on that aspect of you. Focus on me, the Paramatma. Be devoted. Engage your thoughts. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Focus your consciousness on me, on something higher. And just in this verse, we see the stark differences between the Paramatma and the Atma. Both are Atma, both are spirit. But what a difference, right? The Paramatma, we say, self-effulgent. Paramatma is self-effulgent. I don't know, there are days where I don't feel self-effulgent, And we see, I think, was it last week in one of the morning classes when Bhakti Chaitanya Swami was speaking, he was speaking about the many layers that condition us and cover us as living entities. And I think he was speaking about, there's this chart that someone has made of, you are here in this universe and going all the way back up to Krishna, all the layers that are there. Just in this one universe, there's the gross and then the subtle layers that cover each universe. And each layer, is like, some 100,000 million times bigger than the previous layer, So all of this is like covering us in so many ways, But here we are, this little living entity, and sometimes, Prabhupada would say, that people, they ask, why can I not see God? Why does he not appear in front of me? But I can't even see myself for who I am, and I want to see God, I don't even know who I am or what I look like, the living entity, the jiva, all right? Yes, and the Paramatma is pure. That's one description here. Does anybody feel pure? No. Well, for myself, there are days when I don't feel pure, right? Non-material. Have I ever felt non-material? Even though, yes, theoretically I know I'm not the body, but I still act like I'm the body for most of the time. So it sometimes feels like, the living entity, you're just covered and you're just lost in all this wilderness of Maya, of the material energy in some way. But there's such a difference between us and Krishna. Prabhupada says in the purport, he uses the phrase, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. And we know he quotes this many, many times in so many different places. That the Lord is eternal. And yes, the living entity is eternal. The Lord is cognizant. And yes, the living entity is cognizant. But there's such a difference because why? The Lord is the one who is giving us the necessities of life. He is giving us and providing. He is, yes, we are both eternal, but he is the supreme eternal, and we are subordinate eternals, if I could say. And obviously when we speak of the Paramatma, so many examples come to mind from the Bhagavad Gita and what Krishna says. And the one thing he does say in the Bhagavad Gita is, I am one without a second. The Lord, you could say, is in a class of his own. The purport speaks about how there are so many varieties, so many categories of living entities. The humans, the animals, the aquatics, the trees, the plants, the vegetation, so many categories of living entities, and even just subcategories among human beings, so many classes, so many types, so many varieties, right? So many categories, but in the category of the Lord, it's just him, no one else, and he, that one, that Krishna, is able to support all these numerous other categories, living entities. we need to be maintained in so many ways. Even if you think you're independent, you still need light, you still need water, you still need sustenance, and that must all come from somewhere, right? And this is the nature of Krishna, that he can give, he can provide all of these things, but he remains completely full. That's why Prabhupada is speaking about one difference between the living entity and the Lord is especially in the 6 opulences, that Krishna possesses them all in full. We don't. We have some minute quantity of it. We know the Ishupanishad, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, that the Lord is full and complete, and he is always full and complete. When we give something of ourselves, it depletes, and we have to refurbish that. But that doesn't happen with the Lord, The Lord, he is something so much more in his eternality, The Paramatma, is in the heart of every living entity, is in every atom in existence. But that Paramatma in everyone is completely full. It's not like the Paramatma in me and the Paramatma in you is half. I have half a Paramatma, you have half a Paramatma. No, I have a full. The Lord is fully present in my life. That the expansion is there, In the material sense, when there is a division, it lessens something. But Krishna is beyond that. The word Prabhupada uses is gunashraya, is above the modes. He is actually the shelter, ashraya is shelter, guna ashraya, the shelter of the modes of nature, And he can go everywhere without being covered or influenced by the material nature because he is the shelter of that energy, right? But what about us? When we go somewhere, we take on the quality of that environment. You're having a conversation with someone, you listen to someone long enough, you start sounding like them, If you go outside, if you go sit outside in a park, it's a very mode of goodness, so you naturally, you feel yourself being peaceful and settled. If you go to a nightclub and something else, you take on the qualities of your environment, of the association you keep. What to speak of this life, our previous lifetimes. Prabhupada says in this purport, we can't even remember those previous lifetimes. But we're carrying all of that consciousness with us into every life, all of the anarthas, the unwanted things. But the Lord, being residing within our heart, he doesn't take on anything from us, doesn't take on anything. Once in Los Angeles, I think it was a conversation, I can't remember, I think it was between the devotees and Prabhupada, and they're asking Prabhupada different things, they're asking him if when he had his stroke and his heart attack, if he felt pain, because he's a pure devotee, and the disciple is saying, but Prabhupada, I understand that you are in this world, but you're not of this world. Can you explain? So Prabhupada is saying that just like I am in America, it's very easy to understand. I am in America, but I am not adopting the ways of the Americans, But, and he says that not only me, all my disciples, we are not American. My disciples are not American, Prabhupada says, that they're different from the American behavior, the American way of life. In that sense, I am not in America, I am in Vrindavan. Because wherever I go, in my apartment or in my temple, I live with Krishna and Krishna consciousness. I don't accept any consciousness of America. And I teach my disciples also to take to that consciousness. So that's one example. Prabhupada is in America, but he's not taking on the environment that he is. He's fully situated in Krishna, in thinking of Krishna, right? So the Lord is also like that, He's within this environment, but he doesn't take on anything. Another quality of the Paramatma here is Shakshi, the witness, the observer, and yes, that brings to mind also many verses from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says this over and over again, the 15th chapter, he says, I am seated within the heart of all, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I am the goal, I am the sustainer, I am the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. Krishna pervades everything around us. And obviously the 18th chapter, the Krishna says again that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So Krishna is everywhere, right? And it's very interesting, this concept of observing, of being an observer and a witness. It's something you also find in psychology, right? It's one practice that we encourage, or psychologists, counselors encourage to grow your mindfulness. You're encouraged to be an observer of your thoughts, because very often we just react to the world around us. We don't take the time to observe what's happening to us, to understand, why am I responding in this way? Why is this troubling me? Why am I so disturbed in this situation, right? So when we take a step back and we observe, we can understand, why am I being so caught up in what my mind is showing me, right? And when we grow this awareness, I'm talking still in terms of psychology, that when we grow this awareness of observing our thoughts, our actions, what it does is it gives us more choice in how we respond, because we're not just reacting to a situation, we're taking the time to understand it, right? And when we understand that we have a choice in our response, that allows us to be detached from the result of what's happening in that sense. So Krishna, yes, he is the witness to all of our activities because he is seated in the heart. And yes, he interacts accordingly to what he observes in our behavior, right? And it's very interesting, in preparing for this class, I was listening to Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, who's a very senior disciple of Prabhupada. And he was saying that actually, because the Paramatma is a witness and an observer, that aspect of the Lord cannot be merciful, because he's meant to, be an overseer. He's meant to be impartial and unbiased. So he cannot, be swayed or, in that sense, be merciful. And we know, yes, the classic example of the two birds in the tree that we hear in the 2nd chapter, that, the one bird is eating the fruits and the other is just observing, not interfering in any way. So that is the Paramatma and us, But still, there's a concept higher than Paramatma, and that is Bhagavan, the personal aspect of Krishna. Because Krishna, as we call, as Srila Prabhupada always says, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is a person, the supreme person, the supreme personality, right? Krishna in his personal feature, that's where the mercy comes in, what to speak of. In Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Namo Mahavadanyaya, the most munificent, right? And you see, even in the Bhagavad Gita, the tone of Krishna's conversation changes as the Bhagavad Gita progresses. Yes, it starts from the Paramatma and the witness, but how it progresses to, you are my most dear friend, my devotee, engaged in devotional service. So we see this progression again of how we should relate to Krishna, that yes, he is in my heart, and he is the witness, the observer, but he is also my dear friend, right? At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna tell Arjuna? Do what you want to do. I won't force you to do anything. Isn't that not a true friend? That I've advised you, but I'll still be here even if I don't agree with what you're doing. I'm not going to revoke my friendship, And that's why we say, that very nice prayer to Krishna. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dinabandhu Jagatpate, that you are an ocean of mercy. You are the friend of the fallen. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, not Hey Paramatma Karuna Sindhu. It's Krishna in his personal feature who gives us this. You are the master of creation. You are the friend. Yes, you are the master of creation and all of that, but you are also the friend of the fallen. You are both, But yes, this Paramatma feature of the Lord, what it also does for us is it highlights the aspect of friendship with Krishna. Why? Because there is someone who never leaves you alone, who never abandons you, as I was saying. That the Paramatma is there. He doesn't chastise you, he doesn't praise you, he doesn't whatever. But he may not agree with, he doesn't force or get in the way. He just accompanies you through everything, So that sense, it gets us used to having a familiar relationship with the Lord in that sense. And yes, we know in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that when the yogis achieve perfection in their meditation, in their samadhi, they see this Paramatma in the heart. They see this feature of the Lord in the heart. But when it comes to the devotee of the Lord, it's slightly different, in a sense. When I say that, the relationship is different. There's something that Rukmini was sharing with me when I was speaking about what I was preparing for class. And she shared the concluding words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Prabhupada has written. And in the concluding words, Prabhupada has said that, I think that His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavye, spiritual inspiration comes from within the heart, wherein the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His Paramatma feature, is always sitting with all His devotees and associates. So for the devotee, especially for the devotee, the Paramatma feature is there as a source of spiritual inspiration in our lives. And there's two aspects of these concluding words that I'll focus on. The one thing also that came to mind, that when we think of the Paramatma, there's a remembrance in the Prabhupada memories by Govinda Dasi, one of Srila Prabhupada's early disciples, where I think she was having a conversation with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is saying that there's no such thing as instinct. Whenever something happens, when you observe like an animal in nature and you wonder how do they know how to do this and that and take care of themselves and forage and find food and this and that. We say, oh, it's instinct. Instinctively they know. But Prabhupada says there's no such thing as instinct. It is the Paramatma in the heart which guides all living entities, even the animals, to do whatever they need to do to survive and to live in that way, right? So the point is that if I'm going to find inspiration from someone, if I'm going to get spiritual inspiration from someone, then I need some kind of relationship with them. A stranger that I don't know, I won't know them well enough to be inspired by them, to be motivated by them in any way. So, yes, as Prabhupada says, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavye, that Lord Brahma is the first example of this spiritual inspiration. Why? Because he was guided by the Paramatma in the heart to create the universe. And we can see from how he focused on the Lord, how he meditated, and how the Lord inspired him to create this entire universe. And there are so many Brahmas in so many universes. And Krishna, through the Paramatma, inspires all of them. Even Srila Prabhupada is such an example. Always spiritually inspired, Srila Prabhupada said, I have a disease that I can't think small. I can only think big. Why? Because he was so connected to the Paramatma, to the Lord in his heart, that it was just, he was constantly inspired by Krishna in that way, And it's interesting when you read the beginning of somewhere in the third canto, but the Brahma's prayers are there of creation. And he calls Krishna that you are the original creative energy. What does that mean? That Krishna, you are the inspiration for anything, any action in this world. You are behind that, you know. And Krishna even says, because obviously the Lord responds to Brahma, and he says that, you know, everything that needs to be created in the world, I've already subtly done everything. You just have to action it. You have to use my energy and manifest everything, you know. So Krishna is there, behind everything, you know. And this point is also of spiritual inspiration is highlighted later in the 4th canto, in the 30th chapter, with the story of the Prachetas. In the 30th chapter, text 20, Lord Vishnu is speaking to the Prachetas. They have meditated, and the Lord has again appeared before them, and Vishnu has appeared before them, and he is speaking. And in that verse, he says that Vishnu is saying this, that the super soul in the heart of the devotees makes everything increasingly ever fresh. Specifically for the devotees, that Krishna makes everything ever fresh for the devotees. And in the purport, I will just read, Prabhupada says that there is really nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee, which I thought was quite interesting. So if you're finding yourself uninspired, then maybe you're not as advanced as you think you are. But Prabhupada says that there is nothing uninspiring for an unadvanced devotee. He finds inspiration everywhere for service. And Prabhupada continues, he says, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he is situated in everyone's heart, and that he helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. Srila Jiva Goswami in this connection says that the super soul, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, exists in everyone's heart. But in the heart of the devotee, he reveals himself as ever increasingly new. Being inspired by him, the devotee experiences increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service. So yes, the Paramatma is there as the witness, as the overseer, but for the devotee, he is the inspiration behind everything that they do in spiritual life. And this makes the devotee great. This is what makes a Mahatma, this point, and Prabhupada says this, I go back to his concluding words, right, that the Paramatma is sitting with all of his devotees and associates within the heart of his devotees. So the Lord is never alone in that point. In one of the very early New York lectures on the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is saying, he's speaking on the Mahatmas, on the great souls. And Prabhupada says in that lecture that a Mahatma is someone whose heart is expanded, which I thought was very interesting. So the presence of the Lord and his associates and the execution of devotional service and the inspiration that the Lord brings is supposed to expand the heart of the devotee in one sense, right? And as Prabhupada says, you know, the Paramatma with his devotees and associates, it reminds me of the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, that wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, so the Lord and the devotee together is what expands our heart, is what creates auspiciousness and inspiration. Wherever you find Krishna, you will find his devotees, and whenever you find the devotees, you will find Krishna. They're never without each other. So even the Paramatma in the heart, he's never just alone. He is there in that sense. And then you can ask yourself, well, then how can my heart expand? Yes, devotional service is there. But I was thinking that we know that Prabhupada has said that there are 26 qualities of a devotee, 26 main qualities of a devotee. And I was reflecting, why is the first one kindness? It could have been any of them, but why specifically is the first quality listed as kindness? Because, and not just kindness, the quality is a devotee is kind to everyone, you know. And that's something, especially for myself, I struggle with. kind to everyone. Yes, I can be kind to the people I like. That's easy. I can be kind to those who are less fortunate than me. But to be kind to everyone, to be kind to the people I don't necessarily like or get along with, that's what also the Paramatma shows us. The Paramatma is the same in my heart and the same of the heart of a murderer, of an atheist, of an animal, the Paramatma. Krishna is the same. He is equal to everyone in that sense, His kindness is manifest upon everyone in that sense. So one way of expansion is to focus on this kindness as the Paramatma is doing, because Prabhupada says also in another Bhagavad Gita lecture that the devotee, this process of devotional service is there to polish the heart. We say Cheto Darpana Marjanam, we cleanse the dust accumulated on the mirror of the heart, right? And this kindness, this expansion, that when we polish our heart sufficiently, when you look in the mirror, there's a reflection. And when you polish the heart of the devotee, the reflection should be the Lord. So that is the point of this expansion in that sense. I will stop there. Any corrections, comments, additions, questions? No? Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande.